They make the headlines and they give us nightmares, but never fail to fascinate. It's the murky, murderous world of the serial killer. Welcome to Saturday Morning Seance. Let's get grisly. Who knows what their motivations are? They repulse and perplex the mind. Here are 13 of the most notorious. Get ready to dive into the dark side of humanity with this gruesome list of diabolical wrongdoers. These notorious perpetrators will make your jaw drop and your spine tingle. Brace yourself. Propping up the list is the Night Stalker, Richard Ramirez. If Satan had a kid, then this unpredictable random killer is a chip off the old block. In the mid-1980s, Southern California was terrorized by one of the most notorious serial killers in history. Richard Ramirez, also known as the Night Stalker, broke into homes at night, targeting innocent people while they slept. His victims ranged in age from 9 to 83 years old, and his crimes were characterized by extreme violence and cruelty, often leaving satanic messages at his crime scenes. The Night Stalker's reign of terror came to an end when he was finally caught by a group of citizens who recognized him from a news report and then chased him down. He was brought to justice and sentenced to death. There is no denying the Ramirez case remains one of the most horrific in history, a chilling reminder of the danger that can lurk in the darkness. These pair sound like a reputable law firm, but you don't want these scumbags sorting out your last will and testament. At number 12, it's Burke and Hare. Grave robbing murderers. Burke and Hare became notorious in Old Edinburgh, Scotland in 1828. They brutally murdered at least 16 people, possibly 17, and sold the fresh bodies to a dissection clinic for use in anatomy lectures. Hare turned king's evidence to save his own skin, and Burke was hanged and ironically cut up in a dissection class. In 1836, some boys were hunting rabbits on Old Reekie, an extinct volcano, and unearthed 17 tiny coffins containing miniature dolls. It is commonly acknowledged that they represent the poor victims. There were no bodies of victims to bury due to them being cut up in dissection class. Some kindly soul made these as symbolic burials in the hope that their souls would not wander. The coffins are on display at Edinburgh Museum. I do hope you've got your bus fare, because you don't want to be thumbing a ride with these maniacs on the loose. At number 11, it's Bianchi and Buono, the Hillside Stranglers. In the late 70s, Los Angeles was a hunting ground. The Hillside Strangler case involved the horrific murders of at least 10 young women by two cousins, Angelo Buono and Kenneth Bianchi. The abducted hitchhikers were taken to Buono's house and subjected to shocking brutality and then strangled. The killers then dumped their bodies in the hillsides. The case was solved when Bianchi was arrested for the murder of two women and later confessed to his involvement in the Hillside Strangler murders. Both men were convicted and sentenced to life in prison. The killers' utter disregard for human life and the brutal nature of their crimes continue to fascinate and horrify people to this day, and has been the subject of numerous books and films. Make sure you pay your rent on time at 10 Rillington Place with this English psycho. Streaming in at number 10, of course, it's the landlord from hell, Jonathan Christie. Notting Hill. Famous for its carnivals, rich people, and foppish, quirky rom-coms, but it has a dark side. Jonathan Christie. Now there's a name that strikes fear into the hearts of, well, pretty much anyone with a pulse. He was a real piece of work, one of the most infamous serial killers in British history. Not just any old serial killer, oh no. He was a true innovator in his field, hiding bodies in the walls and floors of his own house. Pretending to be a doctor was his shtick, and he just stood by as an innocent man. Tim Evans went to the gallows and was hanged for his heinous stranglings. Christie was responsible for the murders of at least 8 people in his house at 10 Rillington Place. Notting Hill. The long hot summer of '77. Blitzkrieg boppers in the charts, with brutality and fear on the streets of New York. At number 9, it's the chubby behemoth himself, son of Sam, David Berkowitz. In the summer of 1976, a series of shootings terrorised New York City. The killer, known as the son of Sam, targeted young couples sitting in parked cars, and he claimed that he was possessed by a demon that spoke to him through his neighbour's dog. In his own words, "I am a monster. I am the son of Sam. I feel like an outsider. I am on a different wavelength than everybody else, programmed to kill. However, to stop me, you must kill me. I am the monster Beelzebub, the chubby behemoth I love to hunt." His name was David Berkowitz, and it shocked the nation and sparked a media frenzy. In the end, justice was served. He was caught and he was sentenced to over 300 years. IKEA did well to give this guy a miss. Number 8 on this notorious list is the interior designer from hell, Ed Gein. This is the farmhouse of Ed Gein, one of the most notorious serial killers in American history. Gein was convicted of murder and grave robbing in 1957 after authorities discovered the remains of several women in his home, along with some other gruesome artifacts. Gein also admitted to stealing body parts from graves to create these macabre artifacts and outfits. Gein's trial sparked widespread public outrage and led to significant changes in how the criminally insane were treated. Many mental health facilities were scrutinised for their inadequate care. Gein's story also inspired countless books, movies and television shows, including these classic horror films. Today, Ed Gein's farmhouse no longer stands, but his legacy as one of America's most disturbing serial killers lives on. They made him a bit cuddly in Mindhunter, but I don't think you'll want to spoon up with this 6'9" killing machine. In at number 7 like a shot, it's the co-ed killer, Ed Kemper. Edward Kemper, aka the co-ed killer. Now before we go any further, I want to make it clear that what Kemper did was beyond reprehensible. The man is a monster, but as a true crime enthusiast, I can't help but be fascinated by the workings of this killer's mind. Kemper was a large man, standing 6 feet 9 inches tall. He had a very high IQ, but unfortunately he used it for extreme evil. In the early 70s, he killed 6 young women in California. He would pick up his victims while hitchhiking and bring them back to his apartment, where he would strangle them and dismember them. But it gets worse. Kemper also engaged in necrophilia. Thankfully, Kemper was caught. Well, he actually handed himself in and then was sentenced to life in prison. He's a fascinating yet terrifying figure in the world of true crime. I don't know about you, but I'm gonna go and hug my loved ones and be grateful for the good in this world. If you're planning a special occasion and you need a caterer, don't get this guy in as your chef. At 6, it's the one and only Milwaukee cannibal, Jeffrey Dahmer. This is the unsuspecting face of evil, hidden under an articulate and intelligent facade. Just under the surface lies mutilation, necrophilia, murder and cannibalism. Jeffrey Dahmer, a proper nutcase, murdering 17 people in a 13-year killing career. Dissatisfied with the extermination of his victims' lives, he wanted more and started taking some photos. But he wanted more, so he kept some of the body parts, like heads and hearts, but it still wasn't enough for his sickness. He wanted more, so he ate them. Caught in 1991 and sentenced in 1992, he got 999 years shoved up his arse, but didn't serve all of them. He was beaten to death in 1994. Now it may look like glamour, 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 but in reality it's more like a brutal, violent death with a Bill Haley soundtrack. Holding steady at number 5, it's the twin titans Ronnie and Reggie, the Kray twins. The Kray twins, Ronnie and Reggie, were identical in nearly every way. They lived a glamorous life of suits, clubs and women and other things, but behind the veneer of wealth and success lay a dark and ruthless nature. The twins were known for their skills at being violent, which brought fear and chaos, some say order, to the streets of London. Their bond as twins was unbreakable, but their love of power and control ultimately led to their downfall. The Krays may have been identical in appearance, but their conflicting personalities and criminal ambitions set them apart as one of the most notorious and intriguing criminal duos of all time. A conundrum at number 4 on the list, as he has 0 official kills under his belt, but he will mess with your mind and manipulate it like Play-Doh, so you kill for him. It's Charlie Manson. Famous narcissist, wannabe head of the New World Order and failed rocker, Charlie Manson. Skilled in the art of manipulation and the coercion of the vulnerable, convincing his cult, the family, to extinguish the lives of 9 people in 1969, including the brutal murder of actress Sharon Tate. They thought the Tate residence was the house of the Beach Boys producer, who, along with Brian Wilson, Manson accused of stealing his music. Talk about taking it personally. Also said the Beatles were the harbingers of the end of days. Lennon was right when he said he was balmy. Believed he was the 5th angel depicted in the Book of Revelation, who held the keys to the abyss and was going to unlock it to unleash hell on the world, and thought he was immortal. He's dead now. They say laughter is the best medicine. Well, you don't want your medicine served up from this sick fucker. Cruising into the top 3, it's John Wayne Gacy. Clowns. For some, they bring joy and laughter. For others, pure terror. And we have the Stephens to thank for that. In 1986, Stephen King released his novel, It, introducing the world to the idea of the killer clown, Pennywise the Dancing Clown. And Steven Spielberg, in 1982, for his production of Poltergeist, where we were treated to a possessed clown doll. Before that, John Wayne Gacy. He didn't help the popularity of clowns. The infamous serial killer murdered 33 people in the early 70s and masqueraded as Pogo the Clown. But not all clowns are terrifying. Clowns International has a registry of clown eggs. The fear of clowns persists. It's called coulrophobia and affects millions of people around the world. But not to fear. Pogo was executed in 1994. Sleep tight. Utilising the Mesmer stare and getting too big for his boots, representing himself in court, it's that slippery bastard Ted Bundy, wedged in at number 2. In the 1970s, America was gripped by fear as a notorious serial killer unleashed his reign of terror. He was, by all accounts, charming, intelligent, unassuming, handsome, confident, maniac, and a killer. Ted Bundy was his name, and he was active between 1974 and 1978. He went to the electric chair in '89. The exact number of his victims remains uncertain. If there was a true crime league table, this guy would be close to the top. The crypto killer, and I'm not talking about the SEC, it's the man who evaded the law to this very day, topping the list because he was never caught. Of course, it's the Zodiac Killer. The case of the Zodiac Killer is one of America's most notorious unsolved mysteries. First off, this guy killed at least 5 people in Northern California between '68 and '69, and he did it in a very particular style, dressed in black and approaching victims in their cars and shooting them at close range. But that's not all. This killer had a flair for the dramatic. He sent cryptic letters and ciphers to the police and media, demanding that they were published on the front page. One of the ciphers still hasn't been solved. Now you might be thinking, surely they caught this guy. Nope. Despite numerous suspects and investigations, the Zodiac Killer's true identity remains a mystery to this day. Some people think it was a lone wolf, while others believe it was a conspiracy involving multiple people. And to top it all off, this madman even threatened to bomb schools and buses. Talk about a real maniac. So there you have it, the Zodiac Killer case. A real whodunit that will keep you scratching your head for years to come. That about wraps it up for this truly naughty list. If you enjoy the content, please subscribe. Thank you for watching to the end. And one more thing, sleep tight.